Right now, joining us is Bryce Reeves. He's in Hampton Roads today. Good to have him. And Senator Reeves, also a candidate for Lieutenant Governor in 2017. Senator Reeves, good to have you, man.
Good to be on, Commander. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Just had Jim Gilmore on try to explain why he's chairman of Team Virginia, but we find out he's not fully endorsed Donald Trump, so I'm still trying to figure this one out. But let's get on to Bryce Reeves. We're going to get into politics, lieutenant governor, all that stuff, but let's start with what's going on right now. McDonnell yesterday, Bob McDonnell exonerated, all charges dropped, the nightmare 36-month ordeal ended. But I tell you what was odd about this. I want to get your thoughts on it as a former detective, because you've been in law enforcement for some time, Senator Reeves. The federal prosecutor was pitching his bosses to retry the case after they went down 8-zip in the Supreme Court. His superiors said no, and they dropped the charges. But I found that to be scary, that you've got like this federal prosecutor out there that just is like a dog with a bone, basically, and wanted to spend another countless $1 million of taxpayers' money. As you know, they have unlimited resources in order to retry somebody who is no threat to society that got exonerated 8-0. Didn't you find that odd?
Well, I find it very aggressive, and it wasn't a prosecution as much as it was a persecution, in my mind, of at that point. You know, if the Supreme Court came down like they did, 8-0, as divided as the country is today, and the Supreme Court standardly, everybody knows where they are, right? It's 4-4, but they came down 8-0 and said, hey, this is overreach, misinterpretation of the law. We're not trying to discount the jurors that initially convicted Bob, but it just didn't smell to them, and they came down and said, hey, wait a minute, this is a problem. I think what you have is probably an overzealous prosecutor who doesn't like to lose. And, you know, they keep tallies. They, you know, the marks on the butt of the weapon, and they wanted to make sure that, you know, he had a win in his column. And I think that, you know, drove him to that. And, you know, I've known the governor a long time. Governor McDonald, Reagan said about Ed Meese, if Ed Meese is not a good man, then there are no good men. And I'd say the same thing about Governor McDonald. We've all made some mistakes, but to this day, you know, he still is a good man, and he's one of those guys that has remained humbled, and his faith has been enriched, and he's walked the walk and talked the talk. And I think if anybody who's listening really knows and gets to know this governor, that he cares about the Commonwealth, he cares about his reputation. This is a man, I often call him somewhat like Paul when he wrote his letters to Timothy. He was at the lowest, but always an encourager. And, you know, for guys like myself that serve in the General Assembly, you sometimes have to look outside the cone that we serve in and ask for guidance. And he's always been one of those guys who's been a steady hand. And I think it's great. I think it's great for the Commonwealth that, you know, Bob was vindicated, and he can move on with his life.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. I mean, he's been through enough, and now him and Maureen, they can move on. I mean, all charges for her are going to be dropped, and the ordeal is ended. And a lot of people like me thought he should have taken the plea bargain, pleaded it out. He didn't, and he got exonerated, and good for him. And we get to see Maureen today. We're looking forward to that. Maureen, his sister, right, who is a good friend of mine, and so we're looking forward to that. Let's get to the $1.5 billion budget deficit in Virginia. And the other day we had on Chris Stolley, who's on the Appropriations Committee, and he was telling us that the entire deficit in the budget is driven, or like 85% of it, is driven by much lower than expected revenue from payroll taxes. So what he was saying is, yeah, the jobs are there, but they're low-paying jobs, they're part-time jobs, and so they overestimated the Virginia income payroll tax by over $1.2, $1.3 billion, which has driven the majority of the deficit. So we have this kind of phantom recovery, right?
No, Chris is exactly right. The challenge that we have is exactly that. And all the jobs that the governor's been touting about, bringing all these jobs and the economy's growing. Well, the reality, I think, was that, the jobs are growing, but business owners are having to deal with the regulation that they have, and they're trying to still be profitable based on those new mandates and regulations. So
Right.
a lot of people are going to part-time. I mean, it's really a data point to show us that, hey, this is what the economy's really been driven to based on the new regulatory process and environment that we live in. And the other part I would say is this, John. When we sit down and we go into session and we do the budget bills, you got to read the bills. Last year, look, I love state parks. Love them. Love going to them. But when I read in there that they wanted $1.5 million to put Wi-Fi in state parks, is that the job? Is that the role of government, is to
No.
make sure we have Wi-Fi in state parks?
No.
Right? $1.5 million. I can tell you, I know a lot of sheriff deputies. I know a lot of teachers. I know just you name it, people that have a role in government that we ask them to do that could certainly use $1.5 million versus, going to a state park and being able to access the internet. And so, we got about $500 million out of that. And those changes went through, and the park system wasn't happy with me. But the reality is that government's got to live within its means. We don't really truly have we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem in Virginia. And, somebody has to be the adult in the room and make those decisions. Now, the forecasting, we do the best we can, but that's the reality of where we are. And Chris is exactly right on that.
Well, you've got to make it up. Hopefully it's not going to affect the raises for teachers and other state employees that are supposed to go into effect in December. I know they've waited for those a long time, so hopefully you guys can figure it out. Governor McAuliffe says, okay, I can't do $203,000. I'll do $13,000. Restoration of rights. This is another example where, the governor tried to do something. I agreed with him in principle. I thought it was politicized should have done the thing November 9th. He didn't. Supreme Court knocked that down. Then the Maxter turns around. He says, well, I'm not going to do $203,000. I'm going to do $13,000. Basically the same thing. Bill Howe files a contempt. Now there's another lawsuit. No way you guys are going to lose this because, you just read the thing. He did exactly what the Supreme Court of Virginia said he couldn't do. He just changed the number. Am I right?
No, you're right, John. You're right on. And I would tell the listeners out there, this is what we have to deal with when we have people who don't want to adhere to the Constitution and the rule of law, and they feel like they have the authority to just go out and do anything that they want to do. And it takes resources, it takes time and energy that we could spend elsewhere to truly solve the issues of the guy that's 30 days from the street. We have some big issues to tackle in the Commonwealth to shore us up. We're unique in the sense that there's 29 military installations in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're about to go through what potentially could be another BRAC in 2018. And how do we shore up the Commonwealth to make sure that, one, we're not losing 850,000 veterans that are here, any of our military bases, make sure that we have the opportunity to expand. We have a lot bigger issues. And I'm not saying it's not important to take care of people and those folks that have gone through that process. We're all about redemption. The process was working. But to make this a priority and drag those of us who serve in the legislature into this quagmire, self-made quagmire, when we have other issues that are more relevant and more important, it is just ludicrous. And, our bandwidth is narrow to begin with, but to have to consistently and constantly battle this governor because he's trying to win the Commonwealth for Hillary Clinton, give me a break. You're right. Wait till after the election then. It's a play to try to get voters for Hillary because we're a purple state, and it's all about this presidential.
And they're desperate. Okay, the whole Clinton campaign right now is in complete panic mode, desperation. I'm telling you, Senator, I've been following this stuff. I never get this stuff wrong.
Yeah.
Trump is going to win this race. I look at it every day and I see panic, and they're going bananas because they can't put Trump away. They've spent $270 million in negative ads in battleground states. He's tied in Florida, tied in Ohio, within striking distance in Virginia and Pennsylvania. Look at Virginia. Until last night, okay, from the Trump campaign, Paul Manafort had written us off. we had gotten
Right.
nothing,
Yeah.
right? Until it finally came through and we got it done on Thursday. We've been outspent in Virginia $37 million to zero in negative ads. They got 297 people. We have 7 as of right now until that changes this next week. And 2 surveys come out and we're within the margin of error. I mean, these people are in a dead panic.
Yeah, it's tightened up, and they didn't think it was going to be like that
No.
with, the polling that they had with her, 12 to 14 points ahead. Now he's ahead by 2, at least the last CNN poll had him ahead by 2 with 60 days left. That's not how you run the mile relay. And so, yeah, they're panicking because nothing they're doing is sticking, and the more they bash him, I think it's detrimental to the Democrats because the American people are like, you keep beating us all you want to, it's just going to make us more angry, and know that, it's what you're saying is spewing, falsehood. And so, I think that only goes to benefit Trump. And, he's starting to articulate his vision. He's starting to talk about plans. He's got, when he released that list of flag officers the other day that would help advise him with regard to our national security, that was impressive. And so, I had a quick article on CNN that got published about surrounding yourself with the brightest people, and that's what leaders do. Well, that's what Trump is doing, and it's resonating. And I think people and Americans and Virginians are responding to that. And I agree with you, John. I think you're going to call the balls and strikes correct on this one.
I have no doubt he's going to win. And anybody that took Economics 101 knows about the law of diminishing returns. I think this is where the Clinton camp is now with these constant negative Trump bashing. It reminds me, we had a Senate race in District 7, Gary McCollum challenging Frank Wagner. You're familiar with that. And McCollum just spent so much money on negative ads that survey showed that when it got past the point of no return, his negative ads actually started to backfire to help Wagner. Because after a while, people just get sick of it. It's like, well, what the hell are you going to do? And I think that's where they're at right now. Okay, I got 2 minutes. You're running for lieutenant governor. You had proposed or advocated a convention like I did to honor the deal that was made. That we can go over that, why it didn't win 41 to 40. I'm sick of talking about it. How does your campaign adjust now? How do you win a primary?
Well, I think real simply, we came out yesterday, and we have 30 sheriffs within the Commonwealth that came out to publicly endorse us, both independents. Some of those independents, if you were asking, were Democrats. And I think that's a pretty impressive list of 30 sheriffs that talk about, endorsing us and why we're the candidate for lieutenant governor. Quite frankly, John, whether it be convention or primary, we have the right message, and that's to take Virginia back. The bottom line is we're going to take Virginia back. Our campaign's working on that. We're over 37,000 miles in our car traveling the Commonwealth, meeting people where they are, whether that's at work, in their homes, on the street. And our message is resonating. And, I'm a blue-collar kid. My dad's 79. He drives a school bus still today. I don't come from wealth, but I understand people, and I know where people are right now. And they're frustrated. They're angry. They want leaders to lead, and that's what we're going to do. And that doesn't change how we drive our campaign, and we'll be successful. We're not going to get outworked. We hustle. I represent a Democrat district. First time we ran, we won by 86 votes. Last year, we won for re-elections almost by 63%. And that's because we care about the people we represent, all of the people in my district. And so I think Virginians, Americans are looking for genuine leadership. And that's how we're going to do it.
All right. Well, we got a long way off. We have to get through November again. We appreciate your being with us today, Senator Reeves. And when is this primary is going to be? In June of 2017?
June 13th. Yeah.
June 13th, 2017. Also the same day.
Yeah.
That's also the same day as the Democratic primary. They'll have a contested race for lieutenant governor. Only, it appears, 3 candidates, Eileen Filler-Corn, the favorite, Justin Fairfax, who I think is going to win that, and former U.S. attorney from Northern Virginia, Gene Rossi. I got to get that down. On the lieutenant governor's side, we got 3 announced candidates: Bryce Reeves, Senator Jill Vogel, and House of Delegates, a member from Virginia Beach, Glenn Davis. Senator Reeves, thanks for your insight. Thank you so much. We'll see you later on today in Hampton Roads.
Sounds great, John. Thanks for having me on.
All right. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network.